There's been some fun stuff going on this past week here in the conservatory. At least that's what my friends call it, and I don't dissuade them. So join me with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at some blooms, some noobs, and some generous gifts. And the first plant up this week is this Hoyacarnosa Krinkle-8. Back during lockdown, it was difficult to find some kinds of Hoyas, and I didn't know enough, and I was very hesitant about trying anything terribly expensive or terribly exotic. But I saw this, and I thought it was really pretty. Let me find a good leaf. That's where it gets its name, from the leaves. And as you can see, with luck, they're textured. And the name comes from the dimples in them. There are supposed to be 8, 2 sets of 4. 1, 2, 3, well, sometimes it's 5, or sometimes it's 3. But I saw a review online of it. A lady was talking about how pleased she was with it, that it grew really well for her, and that it bloomed fairly on. And at that point, I hadn't had carnosas. I had carnosas. I hadn't had very many or any that grew really well or that bloomed. Those of you who have some carnosas know it can sometimes be a while before they bloom. Hoyacarnosa Krinkle-8 bloomed in the first year. It's bloomed regularly, and the blooms are just beautiful. And as usual, I'll have some pretty pictures over here. I had no expectations about this plant when I first ordered it. I thought, it's a carnosa. What's a carnosa? But I've been so happy with it. It is hardy. It is sturdy. The leaves are very cool. If you have Hoyacarnosa Chelsea, this will remind you of Chelsea, or Chelsea will remind you of this a bit. But I'm pointing because Chelsea's hanging over here this summer. In fact, I think you can see, that's her right there, I think. She's never bloomed for me, and a lot of my other carnosas, they grow, they're nice. I don't dislike them, but they've never bloomed. This one always blooms. It's a great little plant. As you can see, it's liking it out on the porch this summer. And those blooms are just very, very pretty. It's really neat. So you've got really cool leaves, a sturdy, hardy plant, and blooms. So I recommend this one. If you don't have a carnosa, this is where I'd tell you to start. This is Hoyacarnosa Krinkle-8. This next one up, you've seen before. The difference this time is that it bloomed. Sadly, the blooms only lasted a day or two, and while I did get pictures of them, they kind of closed before I was able to do much. So this is Hoyameredithii, and oh my goodness gracious, what more could you ask for? And it did bloom. I don't know if I can, let's see if we can get that to show up. It's still dripping nectar like crazy. Where is it? And the blooms were very pretty, and there will be pictures. I was just so thrilled. I've been excited by this plant. I've enjoyed having this plant. I didn't think it was going to grow. It was another one of those sort of regrettable decisions I made, and I ordered a plant in the middle of December. Yeah, I guess I'm an optimist at heart. It did, once it settled in, it did fine. And it's been putting out these absolutely beautiful leaves. There are 2 more peduncles here and here. Pardon me. So there will be more blooms. It started dripping nectar right away. But the blooms are absolutely beautiful. And I was so thrilled that it bloomed. I mean, it's a great Hoya. It took a little bit for it to settle in. And it's not, I was going to say it's not a rampant grower, but since the warmer temperatures of summer have arrived, and the plant room is now hanging out around 80, 84, peaking up around there during the daytime, cooling down to, I don't know, probably the lower 70s, mid 70s at night. This one seems to be really happy with it. We've got a couple beautiful, they're probably out of frame, but there are a couple of nice active vines up there and more peduncles, and I just couldn't be happier. So I just wanted to show you it's dropping blossoms. It's past its prime, but then so am I. So this is Hoyameredithii. For a little refreshment. Now the next one was sold and is known by the name of hoyaspkalimantan, but it's my understanding it's now been classified as a callistophylla, which, looking at those gorgeous leaves, makes perfect sense. And this week, Kalimantan, come on, let me find a good way to do this, bloomed for the first time. And when I saw the blooms, it's like, oh yeah, callistophylla. They're very pretty, and of course, there will be pretty pictures, close-ups over here. Oh, that's a new leaf, so gentle, gentle. This one did better for a long time, better than my regular callistophylla did. Perhaps it was just from better stock, I'm not sure, but it has just been a good, steady, happy grower. And, you know, those leaves are just beautiful. It's the reason we buy callistophyllas. This one's still kind of new. It's the reason we buy callistophylla, because of the leaves. Yeah, I'm just really, really happy with this. This is very cool. I never thought about it I mean, of course it blooms, but I never expected to see them. I'm always surprised when my Hoyas bloom for me. It's like getting a little pat on the head. It's like, you're doing okay. It's either that or we're about to die and we need to breed. So it's one of those two. But this has been a treat, and I hope it keeps on going. There's some new leaves coming in. I don't see any other peduncles, but there was one. It's a start. This is Hoyacallistophyllakalimantan. And for someone who's never been a really big carnosa fan, I don't dislike them. There were just some things that were far more interesting. Here's another one. And I did this as an experiment. This is Hoyacarnosa compacta, outer variegated. And I have heard for years that Hoyacarnosa compacta is a slow grower, can be difficult to grow, and it's just kind of pokey, and a lot of people expressed frustration with it. Let me see if we can get some close-ups of these leaves. And you'll notice that some of them are looking rather dehydrated and almost as wrinkly as I am. That's because it came in a mixture that I did not choose to continue with. So that one's gonna go too. So I transferred it to pon, and that process can be a little traumatic for a Hoya. And they often, when I talk about a Hoya settling in, a lot of times it means I've transferred it to pon, and it takes a while for that root system to reestablish, because when you clean off the organic matter, you're gonna damage some roots. There's no two ways about it. So some of these leaves look a little wrinkled. Some of them look a little pouty. I get it. But I'm gonna see what happens with this. These have a reputation for mealybugs. Because of the nature of the leaves, it's difficult to find them, but I had this one quarantined for a couple of weeks and I haven't seen any mealybugs, so yay, happiness. I also heard spider mites, and I can deal with spider mites. Those little, yeah. I had calatheas and alocasias. I can deal with spider mites. So this is kind of an experiment. I want to see how it does under my conditions and in my care. And we'll see if maybe I start to like it. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, this is Hoyacarnosa compacta, outer variegated. And these next two Hoyas I'm going to blame directly on Miro. Miro prieteliu tisi. This is Hoya species UT033. And I know it doesn't look like much right now. He didn't travel terribly well. But he looks healthy. So I'm optimistic about that. And this is one of those, you see them on his channel and you go, oh yeah, I need one of those. So you write down the notes, and when the program's over, you find one. And I did, primarily because the blossoms, he's putting out a new leaf. Oh, that's very cool. You won't be able to see it because it's really, really tiny. But the other leaves look kind of like this. So they're not necessarily anything, at this point, gorgeous. But I think it could be very pretty. Not every Hoya leaf has to be splashy and dappled and full of, stuff. Some of them can just do this, but they produce beautiful blossoms. So got one of these. It's only been here maybe 2 weeks. It seems to have made the adjustment. Yeah, none of the leaves feel, other than this damaged one, none of the leaves feel wilty, nor do they look wilty. So I think he's going to be okay. I'm excited to see this one bloom and grow, just like Edelweiss forever. And this is Hoya species UT033. And the next one I also blame on Miro tisi. This is Hoya menziensis. And this one was even worse. I didn't even finish watching. I did finish watching the video, Miro, had no doubt, and I gave it a thumbs up. But I saw this, paused your video, went to my phone and found one because I looked at the leaves and kind of went, oh, I need one of those. So the leaves are just kind of, they're plain. They've got, I think they're pretty. I think they're really pretty, which is why I liked it. And it immediately made me think of Sulawesiana, which I haven't shown you. There's a lot of Hoyas I haven't shown you. I'm working my way through them. I know some people have asked me for a Hoya tour, but I haven't. I've got way over 150 different species of Hoya, and I haven't quite figured out how to do it without it being overwhelming and boring. So when I do, anyway, it's putting out, I don't want to, there's some new leaves here. I don't want to touch them or get near them. So clearly this guy has settled in. There's some stuff that looks like it could be an old peduncle. I don't know. I don't know enough about what Meredithii blooms look like to know if that's an old dying peduncle, which I think it maybe is, or a new one. I'm not quite sure. I know who Meredithii was, if I have a major in South Asia studies, so we in the West refer to him stupidly as Mencius. He was a Chinese philosopher of the Confucian school. So, and usually ensis means the place of. So on superficial guessing with no knowledge to back it up, I'm thinking the name of this means from the place of Meredithii. But when I tried to look up where Meredithii was from, I got like a whole big part of southern China. And it was probably a little bit more specific than that. I'll see what I can find out. But anyway, these leaves are rigid like Sulawesiana. The texture looks similar. They're just narrower and smaller. So this is Hoya meredithiensis. And the mini Hoya haul is courtesy of my plant friend Mona at PlantTherapy 1860. And if you haven't visited her channel, you really should. She's very, very nice. She's very nice and exceptionally generous. I sent her a cutting of a plant I had talked about. We'd been talking about it online and I happened to have it, so I sent her a cutting and she responded with 4 cuttings. She told me I needed more silver in my life, so she did what she could to make that happen. And she started off with a cutting of Hoyacarnosa Wilbur Graves. And girl, that's really kind. Thank you. Appreciate it. So he's up doing his thing. The next one she sent was Hoyacroniana Silver Splash. And I know there's a debate or something of debate or decision, I don't know. I haven't gotten a memo from the front office about Croniana actually being lacunosa. When my Croniana black bloomed, first time it had bloomed for me, I looked at the blossom and went, oh yeah, lacunosa, for sure. So I'm kind of falling on the side of, yeah, I think that's probably the case. The next one she sent me is a beautiful cutting of Hoya lacunosa Silver Lady. And I don't have any silver lacunosas, so these two are very cool. And this last one is Hoya lacunosa Mint. Let's see if I can get some kind of look on that. These are very pretty, very pretty. Very grateful, Mona. Appreciate it. So what I've done is I've set them up in my typical rooting setup. I have plastic cup, drainage holes in the bottom. I like to root in what I'm going to grow in, and I grow mostly in ponds, so these are rooting in pond with some of my nutrient solution. Since even this is a passive hydroponic setup, I'm going to grow them in there. And my secret weapon I got from Adam, KnotDude, is this. This is, I got to put it down, it's heavy. That's my grandfather's cookie jar. And KnotDude, I saw one of his videos where he talked about rooting cuttings in his magic cookie jar. And I have one of those. So it was tucked away, it was all covered with dust and dirt, and I brought it out and I've been using it in the plant room. I don't know what size it is, and it's so old there are no markings or anything on the bottom to tell you the volume. For me, that works better than the Tupperware tubs or any of the other rooting methods I've tried. I think because it's not a tight seal, they somehow do better for me in there. Also that it's clear glass all the way around. So I have it not under the grow lights, off to the side in the fallout. And I can get about 5 of these little yogurt cups in there comfortably. It's glass on glass, so you have to be a little careful so you don't do something stupid, which is in my repertoire. But for me, Grandpa's Magic Cookie Jar works really well. I've seen them around. They're not necessarily cheap. New ones, you can't replace Grandpa's cookie jar. And Grandpa would approve. His wife, my grandmother, was the one with the green thumb. Her thing was African violets. She had lots and lots of them. She won awards for them at county fairs and stuff like that. So he'd be okay with this. So I get to think of Grandpa every time I use it and remember Grandma and her African violets. So Mona, if you're watching, for all of them, thank you very much. And I'm going to be sending you some things I'm hoping you don't have. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me on this week's end. I'm going to put links to a couple videos over here, things you might find interesting. My Amazon storefront, where a lot of the products that I use are listed, is listed linked in the description below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page if you'd like to make a contribution to the financial state of the channel. And enjoy the rest of your week's end.